So, you've decided to dive into the awesome world of cherry shrimp. You're already picturing it, right? A beautiful planet tank buzzing with dozens of bright red shrimp, looking like a tiny underwater city. But what if I told you that most beginner setups are doomed from the start because of a few simple overlooked details? That dream of a bustling colony can quickly become a ghost town, leaving you totally confused and wondering what went wrong. In this video, I'm giving you the 5 essentials for a shrimp tank that doesn't just survive, but actually thrives. And stick around, because I'll also share the one often ignored piece of gear that can literally be the difference between success and failure. By the end of this, you'll have a clear checklist and the confidence to build a shrimp paradise. Alright, let's start with the foundation, the tank itself. It's so tempting to grab one of those tiny 2 or 3 gallon desktop cubes. I get it. They're cute, and they don't really take up much space. But for a beginner, this is one of the biggest hurdles you can put in your own way. When it comes to shrimp, stability is everything, and these tiny tanks are the kings of instability. Shrimp are sensitive little critters. They get stressed out by rapid changes in temperature or stability, and stress is a shrimp killer. Here's an easy way to think about it. If you drop an ice cube into a small cup of coffee, the temperature plummets instantly. But if you drop that same ice cube into a big pot of coffee, it barely makes a difference. Your aquarium works much the same way. More water means resistance to sudden, dangerous swings. That's why I always tell beginners to start with a 5-gallon tank at the absolute minimum. But honestly, 10 gallons is the sweet spot. The stability you gain in a 10-gallon tank gives you a huge margin for error, which is a lifesaver, especially when you're just starting out. While you can keep them in smaller tanks, a 10-gallon setup makes it way easier to maintain the stable home Neocaridina shrimp need to flourish. Okay, so you've got your tank. Now we need to give it a life support system, and that's going to be your filter. This is another spot where well-meaning beginners make a critical mistake. They grab a standard hang-on back filter, thinking they're doing the right thing, but they've accidentally installed a shrimp-sucking death trap. The intake slots on these things are easily big enough to slurp up baby shrimp, and even adults can get pinned up against them by the current if it's a really strong filter sucking hard. It's a truly heartbreaking way to lose your pets. So what's the move if you already have a hang-on bag filter that could possibly suck shrimp up? You can put a sponge filter on the intake like here. But you don't have to put a sponge filter on a hang-on back for a tank filter. You can have a sponge filter. It's basically a porous sponge hooked up to an air pump, like this. This little sponge filter is a triple threat for shrimp tanks. First, it's a massive surface for beneficial bacteria to grow on, creating a biological filtration powerhouse that eats toxic waste like ammonia. Second, the flow is super gentle, creating the perfect surface agitation for oxygen without creating a shrimp blasting water vortex. Now, I used to be in love with power filters and pumps, but as the years have gone on, I've kind of gone more and more to just setting up air-powered sponge filters. But either way, it works good. The extra flow is good, but then you're using up a lot more electricity and having to plug in a lot more things. And for me anyway, because I have all these tanks. So with just air, you can have a central air system going, and it makes things a lot easier and saves a lot on electricity. And third, this is the magic part, the sponge becomes a 24/7 all-you-can-eat buffet. The surface grows a layer of biofilm and traps all sorts of microscopic goodies, which is the natural food shrimp live to graze on all day. Now, if you're dead set on using a hang-on back or canister filter, you really need to cover the intake with a pre-filter sponge to turn it from a shrimp blender into something safe. But honestly, a simple sponge filter is the easiest, safest, and most effective choice. We have a stable tank and a safe filter. Now for the fun part, decorating their world. This isn't just about making it look cool. What you put in a tank directly affects your shrimp's health and happiness. Let's start from the ground up, the substrate. For cherry shrimp, You want what's called an inert substrate. All that means is that it won't break down and mess with your water chemistry, which brings us back to rule number 1, stability. Stay away from active soils unless you're an advanced keeper. Now, certain times, and for certain things, in certain situations, an active soil can be good, but really for neos, it's not needed and it can change your water chemistry. In fact, that's what they're supposed to do. So I always advise new keepers to stay away from active soils. And besides, they're way, 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 way more expensive than just regular sand or gravel. Simple coarse sand or fine gravel is perfect. Here's a pro tip. Use a dark colored substrate. A black sand or gravel will make the bright reds of your cherry shrimp absolutely pop, but the color of your substrate is personal preference, and the most important thing is that it does not change the water chemistry. Next, you need to give them places to hide. A bare tank is a recipe for stressed shrimp. They're prey animals. It's programmed into them not to get ate. And if they feel exposed, they'll just hide all the time and you'll never see their cool natural behaviors. And the absolute best way to do this is with live plants. You don't have to be a professional aquascaper either. Some of the best plants for shrimp are the easiest to grow. Moss is the most important and one of the easiest of all. Now, the problem a lot of people have with mosses is they try a moss and it doesn't do good. Now, I had to try several mosses when I first started. I found what moss did best, and it's the Pilo moss on my website, and I've stuck with it. It's functional, it looks cool, it does what I need it to do. So now I have the same moss in all my tanks because I'm trying to make a shrimp nursery. Other easy stem plants are good, jungle vase good. I suggest any easy to grow plants are the winners. Okay, so let's talk about the invisible stuff, and that's water quality. This is the part that everyone freaks out about, but I promise it's not as scary as it sounds. If you get this right, you're pretty much guaranteed to succeed. Rule number 1, unless you're on a very specific well water or another unchlorinated source, you can't use water straight from your tap. Tap water is treated with chlorine or chloramines to make it safe for us, but those chemicals are deadly for shrimp. You'll have to treat all new water with a good water conditioner or dechlorinator. This is non-negotiable every single time. It instantly neutralizes the bad stuff and makes the water safe. I suggest something like Seachem Prime. Next up is the nitrogen cycle. Here's the super simple version. Shrimp create waste, which makes a toxic chemical called ammonia. A cycle tank has good bacteria. They're living in your sponge filter. And those eat that ammonia and turn it into another toxic thing called nitrite. Then, a different bacteria eat the nitrite and turn it into nitrate, which is way less harmful. You have to get this cycle running before a single shrimp goes in that tank. Adding shrimp to an uncycled tank means they'll be swimming in ammonia nitrite, which will kill them. To keep an eye on all this, you'll need a water test kit to check for ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. For neocaridina shrimp, you'll also want to test GH, general hardness, and KH, carbonate hardness. GH is basically the calcium and magnesium in the water which shrimp need for healthy molting. KH is what keeps your pH from swinging all over the place. The secret here isn't chasing some perfect number you read online. The secret is stability. Doing small regular water changes in about 10 to 20% each week with treated water is the best way to keep everything balanced and stable. We're on the home stretch. The last essential is creating a stable climate, and that comes down to temperature and lighting. And just like everything else with shrimp, the magic word is stability. It's always about stability. It all boils down to keeping stable water for your shrimp. When it comes to water temperature, cherry shrimp are off the charts tough. Now let me tell you this. I have had them live outside all winter long in Indiana in temperatures that were in the 30s F, just above the freezing point. And they can go all the way up to the 90s. I know, I've done it. But ideally, you're talking mid 60s to low 80s Fahrenheit, which is about 18 to 29 Celsius. Now, what I have found over the years is that they will breed reliably at 66, 67 degrees Fahrenheit and on up. I mean, the higher that temps go, the faster they'll breed and the faster they grow up. But also, the higher the temp, the more problems you can run into, and the faster they live out their life cycle. So, I really don't see any need for a heater unless, you live in a refrigerator. I keep my house about 70 to 72 degrees, and I don't have a heater except for in the coolest parts of the house. And in those tanks, you'll have a heater. And it's not because I'm worried about them dying. The fact of the matter is, I breed shrimp for a living. And I got to keep them breeding even in the winter when it's cold. In the coldest parts of the house where they might get down in the high 50s if it's really, really, really cold outside. So those are the tanks I use a heater. But if you use a heater, it's very important to have a separate thermostat or heat controller. Never ever trust the dial on the heater. Trust me, you don't want to cook your shrimp because a cheap heater decided to malfunction. An independent thermometer or heat controller placed on the other side of the tank is your cheap insurance policy. And what about lights? Your shrimp don't really care about them, to be honest, but your live plants absolutely do, since those plants are a cornerstone of a healthy tank, making oxygen, eating nitrates, and providing cover. You need a light for them. A simple LED light on a timer for about 8 hours a day is perfect. This creates a consistent day-night cycle that benefits the entire ecosystem, but make sure you get a light that's bright enough that will support plants, because you don't want really high light plants with shrimp. You want low light plants with shrimp, but you still need enough light even for the low light plants. Like a lot of times, the lights that come with those aquarium kits, they're only like a 5 or 10 watt light, just bright enough to see fish, just to see your critters in there. They're not made for growing plants. So that is one caution I will give you. Make sure you get some kind of light that's appropriate for plants. And that's it. Those are the 5 pillars of a successful shrimp tank. To recap, get a 10-gallon tank or bigger for stability. Use a safe sponge filter. Furnish their world with dark substrate that won't change your parameters in live plants. Use clean and conditioned water, and make sure you get the temperature and light right. Nailing these 5 things from the start helps you dodge all the common traps that cause new hobbyists to give up. It sets you up for an amazing experience where your shrimp don't just survive, they thrive. Oh, and remember that one simple thing I mentioned at the start? The one item that makes the biggest difference? It's a drip acclimation kit. After you've done all this work to create a perfect stable home, the worst thing you can do is shock your new shrimp by just plopping them in. Slowly dripping your tank water into their bag or container that they're in when you get them into shipping water for an hour or two lets them adjust gradually, massively reducing stress and ensuring they survive from day one. It's the final critical step. Look, I know this can sound like a lot, but don't get overwhelmed. Take it one step at a time. You'll be watching your own bustling little shrimp paradise in no time. Now, I've got a question for you. What's the one thing you're most excited or nervous about with your first shrimp tank? Let me down in the comments. I read all of them and I'd love to help out. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button for more shrimp keeping goodness. Until the next one, I'll see you. Bye.